Does Xbox Game Pass hurt developers? Does PlayStation Plus hurt developers? This idea of giving away games for free, day and date, is something that seems to be debated a lot because right now we're still in the very early stages of these subscription services. The idea of paying a monthly fee to get access to tens, if not hundreds of different games, it's still a very fresh concept. And now we have the first developer who's come out and said that PlayStation Plus directly hurt his game. Now, I want to talk about this. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Super quickly, if you hear an owl hooting, there is a bird that must be on bird meth right outside my office, and I don't know what's happening. But we're going to be talking about Oddworld Soulstorm. Now, this is more about the grander concept of it and not this game specifically, but the guy who actually made the game is saying that it was devastating for the release to put it on PlayStation Plus. Now, part of the reason this is just so interesting to me is that Oddworld Soulstorm is an extremely good game. I have the game physically, I have the game digitally, I've beaten the heck out of it. It's extremely good, but they did that thing where they gave it away day and date. They said that originally they were expecting to sell about 50,000 to 100,000 copies of the game itself. Instead, on PlayStation Plus for free, it was downloaded over 4 million times. Now, I want to explore this from multiple directions. I want to talk about his statements, and then I want to look through other PlayStation Plus games and some Xbox Game Pass stuff, because all of this, to me, this is a new generation of game development, and it is going to end up affecting us as gamers. Basically, what he's saying is this. Right now, it's a double-edged sword. I'll give you an example around Soulstorm, Lanning said. Now, this guy, he's the director of the dude. He's the creator of Oddworld. He was very, very passionate about this project. He said this about PlayStation Plus. Initially, he felt that doing PlayStation Plus was a necessity to get the project done. We were hitting a number of legacy technical debt issues and talent issues, and the games industry is emerging fast and huge companies are paying fortunes. Now let me translate this gamer speak a little bit here. Essentially what he's saying is that they were having trouble getting funding, they were having trouble keeping employees. Like a lot of times when you're making a game now, you need hundreds and hundreds of people to typically live in a physical location, work on the project, you gotta pay their rent, you gotta give them freaking dental health care and stuff like that. So managing to keep your workforce big enough and bulky enough to finish a game, it's expensive. And during that time, you're getting $0. Like, consider the fact that during the course of making a game, it's not like you're getting a monthly fee from headquarters. So basically what he's saying is the fact that PlayStation stepped in and paid them for it to be on PlayStation Plus helped the game get done. But here's the interesting thing. Initially, Lanning was hesitant to give the game away on PlayStation Plus due to the lack of PlayStation 5 consoles. However, the team eventually agreed, and Lanning said, "We thought we did pretty good deal." The director said that the game did significantly better than the team could have imagined due to the change in release date. Because it slipped to April, we had the highest download game on PlayStation 5, and I think it was approaching something close to 4 million units, all of them for free, and for us, that was devastating. Now, this is interesting. So basically what he's saying is that they're trying to make the decision as to whether or not giving this game away for free or not was a good thing or a bad thing. 4 million people playing your game is great, but when you've already been paid for it, that kind of sucks. Like if you're paid before you do the work and then the work ends up being much harder than you expected, it can kind of suck to be like, all right, we got done, but at what cost? Here's a fascinating alternate viewpoint from this guy called Piers Harding. He's basically like a technical analyst inside the games industry, and he says this. Basically, it seems like the game itself may not have even been completed without that PlayStation money, but once it came out, the fact that it got 4 million downloads, you can't help but basically see those dollar signs and realize maybe we screwed up. Now, part of the reason this is just so deep and really just technical to try and dissect is the fact that Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, these are a very different beast. For some people it works, for some people it doesn't. The fact that this was a single player experience, one of those one and done games, I feel like the fact that it was free made it where everybody was invested, everybody was fun. I think a lot of people jumped on board for this new Oddworld game, but then a lot of people also left. I do feel like because it wasn't a paid experience, it makes it so people probably play the first couple levels and then uninstall it if it doesn't feel like their cup of tea. It feels like a lot of single-player games are more beloved and higher selling on PlayStation in general, but then a lot of times they don't dominate the conversation as long. It feels like they're experienced, they're loved, they get their profit, and then everybody moves on to the next big single-player experience. Whereas the stuff that does find a more permanent home on both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus does seem like the multiplayer stuff. Like right here, I actually was thinking about this. Think about Rocket League. Rocket League came back in July of 2015. It was launched as a free game on PlayStation Plus. Rocket League got so many tens of millions of downloads that it's still successful today. That game is still making money on tons of platforms. This thing is on Switch, Xbox, PC. You could play it on a Steam Deck, and this thing is still incredibly profitable. And it does seem like, to a big degree, it was that big kick in the butt. The fact that it came out initially on PlayStation Plus, it gave people a chance to try it out, to experience it, and go, oh yeah, remote control car soccer is a great idea. And because of the addictive nature of it, people are still buying skins and spending microtransactions to keep it profitable years after it was free. But then there's also interesting stuff like this. Think about something like Fall Guys. Fall Guys was on the PlayStation Plus. It was the biggest game in the world for a bit, but it fell off very, very hard. Fall Guys, definitely, they said directly that they were trying to replicate the success of Rocket League, and they did, but to such a shorter extent. There's this interesting yin and yang, where it does feel like a lot of times games come out, they get that attention, and then they either explode or die. It's difficult not to compare stuff like what they're doing with Halo. The fact that Halo Infinite and Halo Master Chief Collection are still getting updates because they are on Xbox Game Pass is fascinating. Now, personally, I'm still very mad at Halo Infinite because they're so slow to drip feed me freaking content, but it's fascinating that Halo Master Chief Collection is still getting new stuff added to it all these years after release, and that is definitely because, specifically, the subscription model. Like, I keep thinking about the fact that developers seem to be getting paid in a way that they weren't before. Now, I want to talk about this tweet. This is a really old one. This is a tweet from 3 years ago. Basically, what happened was that a lot of people that are involved in streaming services, stuff like Netflix, completely screws over a bunch of independent filmmakers, where you'll make a very passionate project with your friends, you set things up, you do things right, and it costs you a couple $1,000,000 to make it. Usually, whenever it comes to releasing it on Netflix, they'll pay you the bare minimum possible. It actually screws people over a lot. Basically, same with musicians. If you're a little indie band and you put something on like Spotify or Pandora, a lot of times you're paid fractions of a penny per play, which means that if you're not the biggest streamer, then you are going to die in the water. So a lot of people seem to assume that right now with the games industry, that Game Pass and PlayStation Plus would kill them too, that this would crush people, when in fact it does feel like, for the most part, developers seem to be happy with these services. PlayStation Plus does still feel like it's in a different position than Xbox Game Pass. It does feel like, from the reports from developers themselves, it does feel like Microsoft is paying a higher upfront fee than PlayStation is. It definitely seems like, from a lot of the reports and stuff, that if you get that Xbox paycheck, it is big, it is fat, and it is very, very profitable. Whereas PlayStation, it does seem as if they're just giving you some of the dev costs, they're covering the fees to get the game finished, and then it's sort of just up to you to sell it after that. I think that there is an interesting yin and yang, and I'm going to be curious how many games are actually petitioned to be in PlayStation Plus. Like, consider that. How many people right now are begging to get into PlayStation Plus? How many people are begging to get into PlayStation Now? How many people want that PlayStation paycheck just to finish their dream project? That, to me, is the real conundrum. But what do you think about this? What do you think about Lorne Lanning, this dude actually being so pissed about the devastating failure of his game? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a giant thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. This is fascinating. If you heard that owl, again, sorry, bird meth. It's a problem in Texas, I guess. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.